welcome to episode 11 now with Stef. Her handle is at @wokestoke, which I love because stoke is like the word stoke, and stoked is definitely part of my lingo, being from a ski town. And I like rhyming and stuff too, so I love how she put woke stoke together because she's just stoked on being woke. So we're bringing her on here today because I found Stef through actually somebody else who shared her profile, and she was like, oh fuck, this is like the 8th time and hopefully this video is gonna work. And I just really loved how real she was with her like video process, and furthermore just the way that she announced what she's really committed to on her page with sharing more about trauma and relationships and how to heal from trauma. And really she's dove into sharing a lot about just the rawness and realness of being a human being who's in a state of healing, which is something that we all are in all the time. So I really wanted to bring her on here just to talk about whatever it is that comes through. I really just kind of wanted to hang out. And since reading her bio on like her story about kind of how she came to be, I am excited to get her to share a little bit more of that with you, because this podcast is really about just having conversations with real people about what struggling has taught them and why living in their truth matters. And so that's why Stef really is the true definition of a passion pilgrim, and why I wanted to bring her on here, because she's so deeply committed to speaking her truth and sharing her voice. And it sounds like all of her friends are joining now too, which is awesome. So Stef, if you just want to click to request to join, and we'll just start hanging out, because that's really the part that I get excited about. So she's calling in from Vienna, and if you're not following her already, definitely go do that. So it's at @wokestoke, and I'm just waiting for her to join. So you don't know how to get in on the computer. Oh, you have to go on your phone. So leave the conversation now. I'll wait for you. But open up your phone, and then at the bottom of the screen, you just have to press request to join, and then, so it's going to screw up your whole being set up at the computer game. It's all good. I'm really hoping that the internet's going to work on this one, because last time, so I'm in Bali right now, and last time I tried to do the conversation. Oh, here she is. The Wi-Fi cut out so many times, so hope it's going to be good now. So just waiting.
Hi. How are you? I'm so bad at this. I just tried to get in on my computer, but it doesn't seem to work somehow.
Great, so who cares?
Whatever. We'll just do it that way.
Yeah. Oh my god, the chair is really cute. It reminds me of boho chairs here in Bali.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's really noisy though, so you might hear some do you hear that? No. It does that sometimes. Oh, it goes when I go that way, it will do that. So excuse me if it will be noisy.
It's okay. Have fun. How's your day going so far? Because you were up super fucking late, or super early, working on your course, and then did you nap in between?
So actually they changed the course schedule from 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. today, this morning. So I was able to get a solid sleep throughout the night, and just had to wake up early. So it's fine.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, sweet.
Yeah. How's your day been so far? It's like 7 p.m. in Bali right now, right?
Pretty much over. I was honestly so productive today. I was so happy about it, because I moved house like a month ago, and it's really just like taken all my energy. But I don't know, I think it was 4 days ago or something, I finally figured out how to situate the couches, which was something that was stressing me out, because in Bali it's like really moist, and so I didn't want them to mold. And so it's like this whole like first world problem. But Yeah, basically something clicked the other day with like the house decor, and so yeah, today I've just been super productive and really, really pumped about it. I just want to see if you're still here because it's a little bit frozen. Are you still there? Just checking. Oh, there you are. Yeah, you're really crackly. How's your connection?
I think mine's alright, actually. I've got like 4 bars on the connection.
I know, I think mine's not okay. Let me just give me 1 second. Let me see if I can sit outside, and that's better. This is like the issue of my life right now. I've been trying to set up internet for almost a month. So, yeah.
The Bali lifestyle.
I know. Usually I just move into places where it's already done, but so yeah, that's not what the case is here. And it doesn't really matter where I am in the house. It's always like spotty a little bit, but I think outside's a little bit better. So
if it doesn't get better, I can try and go downstairs. Maybe it is about
no, I've got 3 bars now, so we'll go for it. Yeah, so anyway, my day's been good. I've just been productive and really happy about it and really stoked about our convo and really just hoping that the Wi-Fi works out and that we can get going. But yeah, basically I wanted to bring you on because I really like the way that you talk, because you're just like, yeah, this is what's up. And it's like when you're talking in stories, it's kind of like just having a regular conversation, which is the kind of friendships I like to have, is like we just say what's on our mind, and that's what it is. So
yeah.
And we've talked a lot in the DMs and stuff too, so it's been really nice to get to know you a lot more over the last month. And it's cool because like I see how many people are joining this right now, because you really are really good at like cultivating a following. So seems like you're very my cat's digging in the plant.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you also for bringing me on, because like when you asked me if I wanted to do this, I was literally just starting out with creating content on social media. So it means a lot to me to get the outside support from people who have been doing this for a long time. And yeah, it means a lot to me as well if I come across like really personal and authentic, because like that's what I'm about. I don't want to fake anything, and I just want to literally say whatever I would say to all my friends.
Yeah, it's cool, because it's funny that you say I've been doing this for a long time. I've been having these convos for like, I don't know, a few months now.
Yeah,
but it's cool because like, yeah, for you, like you really want to use your vocal cords basically, and I'm like, yeah, okay, let's give you a platform. We want to hear you. So and then the story that you sent me about your bio and stuff, like I read that and I shared a bunch of it too, but it kind of brought a question up for me of like really how I just want to get started on our combo. And so many people like love it. So cool. And basically your intention of what you're cultivating, you know, like you're getting clearer and clearer on your message as time goes on. And you've been really sharing a lot about your experience in a narcissistic relationship, and how that caused a lot of trauma on you. And then furthermore, sharing a lot about your childhood and being diagnosed with epilepsy at a young age, how that really conditioned you to be controlled. And I found that to be extremely interesting in a few ways. One, recognizing the fact that, you know, that situation in your childhood really landed you in a relationship where you didn't really think anything was wrong. And two, it was really interesting goosebumps because I think for me, like I got into a narcissistic relationship probably, I want to say like 4 years ago or 4.5 years ago, and it's still like lingering on me, you know, and it's like I didn't
realize when I was in it how bad it was, but I ended up like leaving the country and and it was like, you know, blocked from every single device. And then when I popped back into the country briefly a year and a half ago, look who tried to message me from a completely different device, and it was like block, block, block. And like, yeah, it's just really crazy to go through that, and you don't really realize what happened until you're out of it. You don't realize like I remember so many times being in an argument and like visualizing ways that I could end my life just to get out of like the pain of the situation, which is like really scary. And but I want you to talk a little bit about, I guess, just your experience about like, tell us why it's so important for you to teach people how to stop attracting toxic relationships and toxic love.
Yeah. So it's actually funny because just in the last 2 weeks, I sort of figured out that a lot of the stuff that I grew up with and the behavior of like my caregivers, my parents, how they were behaving in their marriage. And I don't want to go too deep into that because I don't want to offend anyone in my family, but I see that there are patterns which has led me to think that it is okay to be treated in a certain way, or just different behavior. So I literally just figured that out within the last 2 weeks, and I'm still struggling to label it as such, that it actually comes like from my childhood as well. But at the same time, like, parents aren't ever perfect, and they always do some things that we would be making differently, and there's no reason to judge it in any way, but that's just the way it was, and that's just the way how I got this belief system that I had back then when I was in a narcissistic relationship. And want to show people how. Then now I literally had a misunderstanding with my soul back then. My soul meant, like, because you can't show people how beautiful they are by doing their hair and makeup, but child me thought that that's the way to go, and grown up me knows now that you have to dig a little deeper to do that. So for the last 5 years, I think, in my healing, because it's 4.5 years ago that I had this relationship, and I haven't been in any sort of relationship ever since, because that's how long it took me to actually heal from it. And when you say that you still feel that effect of the narcissistic relationship on you, I can totally relate to that, because it takes a fucking long time to really heal all the parts that have been literally breaking your spirit in that time. And so yeah, when I started healing from it, I went to a woman who I think really highly of, and she's like my mentor, and she's ever been since I went to see her. And she actually told me that I should consider working with people, because I have the gift to feel other people's feelings and really feel into it. And ever since, it was always in my head, and I was looking for different ways to sort of do that work, but I didn't know where to start, because there's so many different niches that you can go into, and I didn't know what is going to be the right one for me. And only now, when I started my online coaching academy, to learn about all those things and to actually figure out what you want to bring out there, there was like a module about finding your niche. And I thought about, you know what, I thought I have to do something that, because you can't always know everything, but I have to do something that, if I don't know any more of it, if I get to the point where I don't know any more things about it, I still have my personal experience and I can still feel into it, rather than learning from the books and talking from what I have learned from the books. I would want to speak from my experience and from what I can identify with and what I just have personally felt, and then I think I'm able to help people even more because I have been there myself. And yeah, it's just really important for me to help people in this area because I've been there in like 5 years ago, and I've actually been suicidal back then. So it was really like it was really, yeah, I looking back, I don't see this person as myself. I was just a product of a narcissist. But now I know that, and through all the research I did and all the healing I did, I know that people who have experienced emotional abuse or narcissistic abuse are actually twice as likely to commit suicide than anyone else experiencing trauma. So that's why I really want to, yeah, bring my message out there and help people with the things they're experiencing, because I know what it feels like. And yeah, I definitely, in this area, I definitely know what I'm talking about. And if I get to the point where I don't know what I'm talking about, I just educate myself even further. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I love how you're, usually when somebody dives into some sort of like personal work with other people, I love that you come so certain at the beginning, like, this is what I want to talk about. And it's an extremely powerful subject too, because like you said, you're very conscious of respectful to people. And I know for me, like with the emotional and sexual abuse I've had in the past, like my ability to like want to use my voice has been really muted because I really don't want to put anybody out, and it's this thing. And for you, like, there's this way that you do it that's so graceful and kind of like angelic, actually. I don't know if it's just blonde hair, but it's really this like really beautiful way of just totally fucking legit. And so I want you to dive into a little bit like your personal story. And I'm not really sure where you would want to start, but for somebody out there, that there's a couple things I want to talk about. Like, one is I want you to share your story a little bit more, things that you feel are relevant that make you reach out to somebody that's really struggling, how to identify what's going on. But at the same time, I really want you to speak to when you're a victim of trauma. For me, I really don't like the word victim, and I'm really curious about what your stance is on the word victim, because it can be so disempowering to be like, yeah, they're a narcissist and they hurt, it's all their fault. But at the same time, like, where's the personal responsibility, which is where the empowerment comes from? And so how do you navigate that?
Yeah, it's so funny that you just broke a couple of times, so the connection broke, so I might have to get back to your questions. But it's so funny that you just said that you don't like the word victim, because I don't know if you have seen my my post. I did a post about I think it was the 𝙳𝙀𝚃𝙻𝙰𝙀 post, I don't know, with an acronym, where I talked about how I don't like using the word victim, because I feel the same as you. I feel like that itself already takes away your power, and calling someone a victim, you sort of manipulate them into thinking they are the victim rather than rising from that victim state. So yeah, it's really funny that you just said that. And over the last 3 weeks, it's so funny how I saw that a lot of people in my circle right now, it's like we're having a collective mind, and at the same time we always think the same things. It's really funny. Yeah. So that doesn't really have anything to do with what you just asked, but I had to mention it.
I kind of on a very similar page about it, and even if we weren't, you'd give me your honest answer.
Sorry, even what?
I said, I feel like I had a feeling that we'd be on a similar page about it. And even if we weren't, you'd answer me honestly anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's a good foundation for this.
Yeah.
So yeah, where did you want me to start? My personal story, or did you?
Start with the victim thing. So when somebody has identified themselves as a victim, of trauma or a victim of abuse, maybe if you personal story with being a victim, maybe that's an easy way to talk, and kind of what you went through.
Mm-hmm. I guess like for most parts of like my journey after this narcissistic relationship, I didn't actually identify myself as the victim because I never had a diagnosis that this person was actually narcissistic. And then past me comes in, the narcissistic abuse that comes in, and she's still in there. She was not anymore. She was still in there, sort of thinking maybe it wasn't abuse. Do you know what I mean? So for most of the time, I didn't actually identify myself as a victim of emotional abuse because when it comes to people being bipolar or schizophrenic, you usually have a diagnosis about it, and it's really easy to spot, sort of. But when it comes to narcissism, you basically just think that person is an asshole. You know what I mean? You're not really. It's so common as well. It's so common that it's almost unrealistic that so many people are narcissistic. But we have as many beautiful people we are growing in this world at the moment. We also have a lot of fucked up ones too. So I feel like the problem with like what I had was I wasn't even aware that I was a victim of emotional abuse for most of my time. I thought that this person was just like not really good with relationships, and I was just not really good with keeping my boundaries and staying clear about what I want. And so I actually just figured out like in December, I think, that it was narcissistic abuse. Like I educated myself to a point where there was no way of denying it anymore, and there was no way of like finding apologies or the blame on yourself. Once you educate yourself to the point where I think that's just like a big part of the healing is identifying it as the emotional abuse that it was. And I think lots of people aren't even aware that they are the victim. And what's really dangerous about the whole victim state is that a lot of people actually get trapped in it because it's always easier to be the victim of your own life and to get everything handed and always get a special treatment. And that's basically like the outcome of a narcissist. Like a narcissist has been a victim in their childhood for most of them, and they just stayed there. They didn't evolve from that, and they didn't heal it, and then they become this narcissistic person, and they have this narcissistic personality disorder. So I think for me, I did so many different things to heal from it, and it's really hard to say like this is the one secret magic wand that you can use to heal from emotional or narcissistic abuse. But I think the first step should always be educate yourself about it and actually figure out that and address it as the abuse that it was. Because with narcissistic abuse, you're always told by the abuser that it's your fault and that you are triggering that behavior of them. And so you get so manipulated that you actually start thinking that you're the abusive one. And it's funny because the irony of it is that actually that's how you spot the abuser, because the abuser will always blame the other person, but the victim actually questions it. The victim actually starts to believe if they are maybe the reason for all of that. So that's like, when we talk about signs of abusing people, I guess that's like a major red flag. If someone's sort of telling you that you're the abusive one, that's usually when you know that there's something off, because you don't just go and judge people and tell them what they are. You go and tell them how it makes you feel. And there's a huge difference in that. There's a huge difference in telling someone how they are or what they are, or in telling someone how it makes me feel. And there's a huge difference in the respect, and there's a huge difference in the awareness of it. And so yeah, I think that like a big part is addressing it as the abuse that it was, and also having the will to come out of your victimhood and actually heal from it and learn from it, and actually see it as a chance in your life. Because I think for me, I'm really grateful that I have experienced it, and I wouldn't want to change it in any way, because I don't think that I would be even half as strong as I am now if it didn't happen. So I actually see it as a blessing. Like, with all the shit stuff that happened, I actually see it as a huge blessing. So yeah, what else do you wanna throw anything into that, or should I continue talking?
Well, I love what you said. Yeah, I love what you say about how you believe it to be a huge blessing. And for anybody listening that's in the grips of some sort of traumatic abuse right now, I just want to highlight how long it took you to get here. Years, you know, to really the blessing right now. And I think what I would love for you to share is a little bit about like actually some specifics about what you experienced. Like, when I think back to my experience, I mean, even just talking about the things they used to blame you for. And I mean, I remember my ex telling me, he came from a background of addiction, and I would give him massages just to like be a good girlfriend. But it got to the point where he was like basically pimping me out as a massage girl. Like, it was expected every single time that like I wouldn't be touched if my nails weren't done, my feet weren't, pedicured, and then I had to give a massage, and then I had to bring food. Like, I remember the one time that I just didn't want to give a massage. It was like, oh, well, my back's really sore. If you don't give me a massage, I go get addicted to Percocet again. And it was just like such an abusive thing to say.
Yeah. It's like yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm interested in like, I think people get it's just really fucked up stuff. And I think people would be really interested to like hear about like some things that, like, what are some things that actually really stuck in your mind that, that really hurt you, I guess, that you've now like learned to cope with. And then we do have a question, so we can go there after, from Sylvia.
Sorry, and then we
have a question from Sylvia after, so.
I after, okay. So I've lost the question again. So I'll start answering with what has been stuck in my mind from like a special thing that has happened in the relationship. Okay, so the one that's like so engraved in my brain is actually, so he was always messaging with other girls. I don't have evidence that he was actually physically cheating, but he was definitely emotionally cheating. And I think it started like maybe 7 months into the relationship. And it actually already started on the first day when we walked into McDonald's and we were super hungover, and we went in there and there was a girl working, and she was looking at me in a weird way, and I sensed a lot of feelings, and I felt that there is something that she knows him. And he told me actually that she's just a friend, because I addressed it afterwards after we left, and he was like, no, she's just a friend. And actually that was the person he was always messaging. And so yeah, so that was one of the girls that he was definitely emotionally cheating on with, to me. And what happened was I checked his phone a couple of times, and he would be really secretive about his phone, and I wouldn't have his passcode. Did I have his passcode? No, I wouldn't have it, but I figured it out because I saw it one day when he typed it in. So I would check his phone when he wasn't there or anything, and I didn't do it because I wanted control, or because I wanted to see what he does on his phone and just be disrespectful to his privacy. I did it because I had this sense that I would find something, and it drove me crazy to the point where I was like, I have to check now to confirm that I will not find anything. But the problem was, every time I found something, every time I would find, and it wasn't just innocent shit. It was actually stuff like, I don't love her, she's so fucking annoying, I'd rather be with you, I fucking hate to be in this relationship, I wish I could be with you, blah blah blah, and I love you, even like at the end of the messages. So but he would still be completely normal to me. Like, you wouldn't notice him distancing himself emotionally from me, but it was just me being really aware of things and feeling a lot of things. And so I knew that I would find something, but I was trying to confirm that I'm not gonna find anything. So I checked his phone a couple of times, and whenever I did, I found something. And it was always stuff that I could somehow ignore. But then there was this one message that said, I would rather be with you, I don't love her, I love you, blah blah blah. And that was when he was on his football training, and guess it wasn't a football training, could already been him seeing another girl. But he was having his training, and I got home and I put all the stuff in the dishwasher, because I was basically his mom as well. I would cook and clean and do everything that has to be done. I would even pay the fucking bills. He wasn't even able to do that. And so I saw that he forgot his phone, and he would never forget his phone or leave it at home on purpose. And I felt like I'm gonna find something, but I tried not to look into it, but it just made me mad. So I was like, okay, I have to check. I'm not gonna find anything, I have to check. And so I looked into it, and that's when I saw those messages that said that he loves this other girl and he doesn't want to be with me and stuff like that, and just talking really nasty about me as well, that I was just annoying and I'm just like a psycho and whatever. And so I saw that, and I put his phone away, and I started just crying, and I was putting all the dishes in the dishwasher while crying. And that's when he got home, and I tried to not make him notice that I was crying. So I wiped my tears away, because I knew if he knew I was crying, he would know that there's a reason for it, and he would make me take the guilt and the blame for it at the end. So I was trying to just act normal, and then he came over and he said hi, and he looked at me and he was like, what's wrong? Like, he immediately knew something was wrong. And it wasn't like he didn't even think that something was wrong that happened in my day, something normal, I was just upset or whatever. He knew exactly that something was wrong and I had found something. And he looked at me and he was like, he looked at me, looked over where his phone was, looked at me again, and he was like, what the fuck is wrong? Like this. like already attacking me in a way where instead of showing compassion, he would already be like, what did you do now? And what did you do now to upset yourself? You know what I mean? So I said nothing, like it's nothing. And he was like, why you cry? Why did you cry? And I was like, I wasn't crying. And he was like, I can see that you were crying. Do you think I'm stupid? Like, why are you crying? And I was like, no, I'm not. And he was like, did you look through my phone again? And I was like, no, I didn't. It's fine. Like, I was actually like someone who's scared of him. Like, I would deny what I saw just to avoid the conflict. And I was like, no, it's fine. Like, I didn't see anything. And he was like, you don't have to fucking lie to me. Just tell me what's wrong. And I was like, well, I actually, like, I saw that you forgot your phone. And I was like, at that time, I was just like a tiny mouse. I'd be terrified to speak up in front of him. And so, sorry, I was just reading the questions. I was getting a little lost. And so I was terrified to speak up. And I said, well, I was looking for your phone and I found these messages. And why would you say that to someone? And he had this look on his face, and he always had this look on his face, and it would just be a look that would scare everyone. Like, it would be the meanest and most devaluing look that anyone could ever give you. And I actually found a picture on my computer the other day where I catched him taking a photo of exactly that look, and I was like, how did I, like, it even scares me now looking at someone, and it's like the devil looking straight at you. And he looked at me, and I was like, and he was like, why can I not even forget my phone at home without you controlling me and checking it and blah blah blah. And I was like, I tried to not look into it, but I felt like I would find something, and I was just trying to give myself the evidence that I wouldn't find anything, but then I found something. And why do you write those things? And he actually got me, and you have to imagine that's so fucked up. He got me to a point where I apologized for looking at him. Got me to a point where he said to me, and you have to, I mean, let that sink in. He said to me,
dude,
there's no, he was like, no wonder I have trust issues if I can't even forget my phone at home without you checking it. And now, like, in that moment, I felt so guilty and so bad and so psycho. But now I think of it, and I was like, I should have fucking slapped him and tell him to get the fuck out, because what the hell is that? How can you even say that with, like, to a person who's obviously not the abuser, and not even the guilty one? How could you even say that to someone? So thinking about it now, I'm like, fuck, what the fuck? And there's just so many situations, like all the gaslighting and all the they're experts at finding your insecurities, and then they use it to constantly trigger you whenever they need you weak. And it's just crazy how they literally, like, I feel like a person who has experienced narcissistic abuse, when I see that person, and I know this example might sound stupid, but what I see is abused elephants in Thailand or wherever. You literally, like, I see that person like that elephant. You have killed everything about their spirit, and they're just broken, and they just work for you now. They're literally your slave, and you have broken everything about them. You got them to a point where they don't even think themselves anymore. And it's just really fucked up how only emotional abuse can really fuck up a person's mental health. And it's so dangerous, because and I don't want to devalue physical abuse. Both of it has the same intensity. But the problem with emotional abuse is you don't have anyone noticing it. And you're so manipulated to the point where even you don't notice it. Physical abuse, usually at some point, someone will notice it, and you will get the outside confirmation that something is wrong. But with emotional abuse, a lot of narcissistic abuse are actually everybody starting on the outside world. So you depend on yourself, and it's not addressed as emotional abuse, and you don't even know about it for most of the time. Some people never figure it out, and that's why it is so dangerous, because it completely breaks you, and it just finds its way into your soul, and you don't even know it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And I love what you really highlighted with that specific fight of like, the problem is you found a text of him literally like talking shit about you and saying I love you to another girl, and he's like mad because you looked at his phone and then you apologized, and like of like the issue here, and it's like, whoa, like the issue is you're literally emotionally cheating on me right now, and I found it, and it's like proof, and this is real, and you're getting upset about something, like just the way that it was so obvious how it's turned back around. And then the other is, you know, the fact that you were already at the point where you saw this literal, like you could have been fucking somebody in front of you, and yet you were choosing to do nothing, you know, like you were choosing to not say anything, you were choosing to just like avoid, and somebody's like literally like they're fucking somebody in front of you, and it's like, what do you do to where it's so extreme that relationship that way, you know, like you're not enter like being a super weak girl, like yeah, whatever, like doesn't matter if he texts everybody, like this is like, that's literally what trauma is. Like you avoid conflict because there's been so much and it's been so crazy that you're now like, get me the fuck out of it, I'll do anything.
Yeah.
And it's a real like real you know, for anybody that maybe thinks that they're receiving abuse, it's a real thing to like look at situations like that from the outside and be like, well, yeah, obviously this is not right, but then here I am apologizing and like shrinking and crumbling because I'm scared.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I'm curious about is like similarity in relationship too. Like I remember I got accused of cheating like the whole time. And meanwhile, like when I looked through the phone, which like PS, it's psycho to look through somebody's phone. So to like be driven to that point where you're looking through somebody's phone just to get confirmation that something's going on. I know for me, when I finally found something, it was like, because I'd already tried to break up with him for like 4 months. I've been trying to like break up with him, and I just like, when I did, he got mad at me, we got back together, and like I just didn't feel like, you know, it was like, what's wrong with me, why do I want to leave? And I was really uncertain. And it was like, I looked through his phone because I was selling it for him because he had gotten a new one, and it was almost like, yes, I finally found something that's like cheating so that I could leave, you know. But it was just that same like, you know, like, and I remember the first weekend away like that we had together, because we would see each other for like weekends because we were in different towns. And I remember the first weekend there was a drama, you know, there was some sort of drama where he basically made me feel bad about a way that I didn't stick up for him, and then threatened to cancel the weekend, and then basically made me apologize, back down, and like cancel my plans the following weekend, and basically beg him to stay. And that was the first weekend we were together. Like it was so fucked. And like that's the premise of like the whole relationship is like, and I'm interested to know, because when I was researching narcissism, I don't know if you can hear me or if it's cutting out. Just wait here. Just waiting for her to come back. So if you just want to join, everybody hang on. Yeah, just join back in. I'll hang out.
I don't know what just happened. I got kicked out.
Yeah, I can hear you. So, can you hear me?
Sorry, what were you saying? The last bit I heard was about you saying that he threatened to not join on the weekend or something.
Yeah, he basically threatened to leave, which like found out really early that like girls got abandonment issues, you know, and like I'm pretty sure we talked about it like beforehand anyway. But
I mean, who doesn't? Who doesn't these days?
But anyway, it was just so crazy because when I was researching narcissism later, it mentioned that early in the relationship there will be some sort of drama, and that's the way that they hook you to, one, be conditioned to the drama, and two, fear that they'll leave you and like just gain control over you because they basically initiated the relationship by controlling you. And I'm curious to know if something like that went in your relationship as well.
Yeah, so so there's also really specific phases in a narcissistic relationship, and it usually starts off with like the really dramatic side, which also shows like the love bombing. So it's also like the dramatic part can be actually a drama, or it can be love bombing because that's dramatic as well. And then once that is done, that's a way to get you emotionally hooked. And once that is done, the devaluing phase continues. So you will have a phase where you go through sorry, it just kicked me out. I have like, I don't know why. I have like a timer on Instagram, and when I've spent like over an hour, it kicks me out, and I forgot about changing that. Anyway, so the phase 2 is usually devaluing phase, where they will say certain things that trigger you in order to make you feel insecure and get you to the point where you lose your confidence and your self-worth. And the third phase is usually like the cliff hanging phase, where all of a sudden they're not approachable anymore. They aren't ever there emotionally or physically. And that's usually the phase when they start cheating as well. And what's really interesting with the narcissistic abuse is you don't just go through those phases and then it's over and you get out of it. Narcissistic abuse is actually circular, so it continues like that. Once they get you to a point where you're just completely done with the relationship and you're just so exhausted, they start love bombing you again. So they get you back in and get you evolved again and committed to it again, and get you to a point where you think, oh, now he must love me because he's changed now and stuff like that. And then it just starts all over again. And this can actually happen for years, or sometimes the person starts cheating in the cliffhanging phase and then actually moves on to the next victim and starts doing the same abuse with that person, and then you're lucky to be out. Like, you dodged the bullet if the narcissist is leaving you, because most of us are not able to leave ourselves anyway in the start. But yeah, there was definitely those, like, I can tell it's so interesting because after I educated myself over the years, I can spot a narcissist like within, give me 10 seconds with them and I will tell you if they're a narcissist. And I've experienced all phases of them. And the first phase was actually that my ex-boyfriend was from the States, and we had like a thing, and then he left to go to the States again. So we were already having one circle of the narcissistic abuse, but then he left. So we kind of lost the contact for a while, and I was really upset about it. And then he returned to Vienna, and I was actually leaving Austria as well in that phase. I went to live in Singapore, and just when I got back the first night I went out, I saw him, and he was back in Austria to play football here. And yeah, so it started off really dramatic because he was from America, and it wasn't just like, okay, let's get together. It was drama because he's going to leave again, and what are we going to do, and how can we be together? And then him saying like, I've always been in love, and you've been the most supporting person I've ever had. I should have never hurt you to get me hooked again, because I was already like, in that time before we started to get back together, I was already like, fuck you, like you just broke up with a text and I don't want to know anything about you. But he actually like worked to get me hooked again for like an hour at this party, and or maybe even more. And then he would say all those beautiful things, just everything that anyone wants to hear. And then yeah, we tried it again, and then he got me hooked, and then we were actually like together, and he had to leave probably like 2 months into the relationship. He had to go back to the States, and so he went to go back, and he was really dramatic about it and crying at the airport and stuff like that. I mean, we were both crying, but it doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
That a guy does it. But that was just part of like being really dramatic. And then he was back there, and then he just hated it, and he hated his job, and he didn't want to be there anymore. And then he would just always call me, and the plan was for him to return after 6 months, but within like 2 weeks he would call me every day telling me how much he wanted to come back. So what I did was I talked to my parents, and they actually liked him as well because he's everybody's darling. And they were like, okay, well, he can stay in our house, and we can give him a job at our company, and he can start off there, and he can just come back, and he will have a safe arrival with like all the security that he needs for the start. And you know that narcissistic abuse usually doesn't only happen mentally, it happens mentally, sexually, and financially. So yeah, it already started with the financial part because he was broke, and he was like, can you, like, I can't afford, I want to come and I want to see you. And then obviously I would be like as well, like, I want you to come back. And then he was like, but I can't because I can't afford it. Well, what are you going to say as a partner? You're gonna say like, fuck it, I'll pay it, like I'm gonna give you the money. And I paid his flights, and he worked for my parents for like probably the first 6 months, and he would use their cars, he would live there rent free, and he would get paid. And then we moved into my apartment, and he wasn't paying rent, and the rent wasn't high. We only had like €300 a month. It was like from like someone who's related to me gave us the apartment, and it would only be like €150 each, but he wasn't even able to pay that. And then he started the devaluing phase, where he would see what my insecurities are, and he would always point them out in social situations. So I was starting to feel really unsafe and insecure, but I didn't think that it was him causing that, I thought that something's wrong with me. I'm just all of a sudden really insecure. And yeah, so the devaluing phase started, and then all of a sudden, like probably a year into the relationship, he would constantly have his training, his football training, but he would go there before I come home from work, which would have been sometime before 7 o'clock, and he would not come back until like 12 o'clock midnight. And if he was there for like, let's say he was there for at least 4 hours, surely it's not 4 hours training and every single day, you know what I mean? Like every single day. I can't imagine that to be realistic, but I guess that's when he started probably cheating. And yeah, what else was there? I wanted to tell about a situation that was really crazy as well, but I forgot about it. But yeah, it's just really interesting to see how they really sense your insecurities and then they use it against you, and they will come over in social situations when you were, let's say you're having you meet up with a couple of friends of your partner and yours, and then you say something and everyone in the round is listening, and then he will pull you aside at some point and he will say, why did you just say that? And you'd be like, what do you mean? And he'd be like, why did you just say that? Like, saying that makes you look really stupid. And I'll be like, what? Like, I didn't mean it like that. And he'd be like, well, that's how people think that you mean it. Like, you can't just say it like that. It makes you look really stupid. And I would be like, it's really manipulating. And you actually think like, fuck, like, how did I just say it like that? I didn't even mean it. How did that come out like that? And how can people think that, you know what I mean? Like, you question yourself and then you're like, fuck. And then he will say something like, yeah, it's okay. Like, just, you know, I just want to, I'm just saying this because you mean a lot to me and I don't want you to look stupid in front of people. And you would actually be grateful for it. You would be like, oh yeah, it makes sense. Well, thank you. I will not do that again. And then you sit there and you just don't talk anymore. And it just gets worse and worse. And in every social situation, you just get paranoid and you think that whatever comes out of your mouth is just stupid and nobody wants to hear it. And yeah, it's really crazy how far it goes. And it actually got me to a point where I had one single friend who sensed the bullshit, and she actually came up to me at one of our friends' 30th, and I was there on my own because he was at his training, and I was really happy and having a good time with everyone. And she was like, I'm so happy, like, I haven't seen you like that for a really long time, and you're so like relaxed and everything. And I was like, really? Like, I don't know, didn't feel like I was any different. She was like, no, you're really different today. You're more like your old self. And I was like, okay, whatever that means. And then he came to pick me up, and as soon as he came, I was just like terrified because I couldn't speak to the guys anymore, because he also got to the point where if I showed any sort of, in his eyes, jealousy, what wasn't even jealousy, it was just facts, he would start telling me that maybe you are the one who's cheating. Maybe you're so jealous because you're the one who's cheating. So I was even afraid to just talk to some of the guys, and then I was just sitting there and I was just afraid to say something wrong in front of him. And so I just started to go quiet, and then my friend came over when my ex-boyfriend wasn't there, and he was just, I think he was having a smoke with the guys, and she came over in that minute and she was like, Steph, something's wrong with you. Like, something is off and I don't know what it is, but this relationship is not healthy for you. And I can see that you're literally not yourself anymore. And I was like, what does she mean? Like, how can she say that? And I was like, no, I don't know what you mean. And she said to me, what is it that he gives you that makes you so in love with him, and that you think that you couldn't have in any other relationship? What is it that makes him different to you wanting to be with him? And I struggled to give her an answer because I didn't know what made him different. The only thing that made him different was his abuse and his control over me, but I didn't know it at the time that it was that. I thought bad about not being able to say some sort of personality traits that he had that made him different or made him that perfect guy. And
good enough.
yeah.
So yeah, I know, like, it's a very, like, I remember it's a lot of playing on somebody's mental health. Like, you know, you feel like you're the crazy one, and yeah, it's super fucked up. I do want to go into some questions because Sylvia's asked a few questions. So her question at the beginning was, and it's an interesting question because in there, does a narcissist ever change, and is there anything you can do to help them change? And I'm curious to know your take on this, because I know for me, I always think that I'm going to prove myself worthy enough by trying to help somebody, you know, be a better person or whatever. And that's the trap in itself. And the other thing, like, you know, I have like acquaintances in my life who I'm pretty sure they're narcissistic, but they're at an arm's length and they don't hurt me, you know, like we have specific, very boundary driven relationships because, you know, they're not bad people per se, just don't fucking date them, you know? And like, it's interesting because I went through a phase where it was like, oh yeah, you're a narcissist, you're bad, you know, and it's not the case. You know, people's parents and brothers and sisters are have narcissistic tendencies, and there's different levels and whatever. But the one thing I'm curious about from you with all of your research is, what's your take on if they change and what you can do to like help, basically?
Yeah. I guess for a fact every one of us has narcissistic traits, because that's just healthy. Like a narcissistic trait, for example, is being Jimmy.
I said especially in social media.
Sorry?
I said especially with the influx of social media.
Exactly, that, for example. And yeah, just a healthy narcissism, like finishing a project and being proud of yourself that you're able to finish it. That's healthy narcissism that everyone has within themselves. But yeah, narcissism is actually like when it gets to that level that other people are involved and abused emotionally, then it's definitely a personality disorder. And I think narcissists are really blamed for always being the bad guys. And don't get me wrong, I think that my abuser is definitely a bad guy for me. He was a bad guy to me, but he was also my greatest teacher in making me, or being the foundation of why I became who I am. But I think at the end of the day, it's a personality disorder. It's not just a personality trait that's fucked up, or that's just like makes that person an asshole. It's actually a personality disorder, which is you don't just go around and blame someone for being schizophrenic or bipolar. Like, that's the same thing. And yeah, I think most narcissists don't change. I think they actually get worse with age, because they carry so much stored trauma and pain within them. And you have to imagine, for someone being able to hurt another person like that, they have to carry at least twice as much pain within themselves. And they actually, like, within themselves, it's really dark, and you don't want to switch places with them. Like, even though they're the abusing ones, they actually don't just abuse the victim, they abuse themselves as well. But the problem with narcissistic people is they usually think that they are the victim because they experience the pain from their own behavior. So they get to a point where they reflect the consequences of their own behavior. They think that it's coming from the outside, and they think that it's coming from whoever is in a relationship with them. So I think most narcissistic people never really get to a point where they see that something's wrong with them, because that's probably one of the hardest things, to see that you're the abusive one. And I think that people can learn to live with that personality disorder, and they can learn how to deal with it and stuff like that if they are willing to go into therapy, and really go into therapy like throughout their lives, because I think that's something that just doesn't go away. But I think it will always be a little voice in their head that makes them act a certain way. And I think if you don't heal it where it happened in the childhood, and it's already, that person has already developed the personality disorder, then I think it's really hard to stop being a narcissist. You know what I mean? It's really hard to heal from that personality disorder. I think most narcissists wouldn't. That's my opinion, because they usually don't even look that far. They usually don't even look within themselves. They just see what's going on around them, and they see that they're losing all those people, and they're being addressed for doing something, and then they feel like they are the victim of it, when it's just a reflection of their own behavior. So to answer that question, I think most narcissists don't heal from it, and most are not even aware that they are narcissistic.
Yeah. And to add to it too, because there's an element of that question that was like, how can I help them? You know, from a mental health standpoint, you know, for myself, I've been diagnosed with like chronic depression. I've been diagnosed with bipolar 2, which turned out to be a misdiagnosis. But at the end of the day, like, you know, I have this like chronic depression, ADHD inside of me. And like people try to like make me happy, and they think that they can even impact whether or not I'm depressed. And it's like, no, you can't. Like, don't. It's hard to hear it from the outside looking in, but anybody that's really gone through any sort of mental health, or has loved somebody in mental health, whether they've suffered with mental health, addiction, whatever it is, you literally can't do anything more to help that. And so when it comes to, and also the people in those situations, whether they're deep in a mental health crisis, like I've been deep in addiction, like my brother's been, and I've been a little bit, but more in mental health, or you know, deep in this narcissistic tendency, there is an extreme self-centered nature to what's going on. And so for anybody outside to think that they can help, it's actually this self-centered nature that's sucking you in. And the best thing that you can do, I think personally, my opinion, for somebody that is combating those extreme things, is kind of like, it's like presenting something and just waiting, and just really like keeping good boundaries, and you know, having a space, but making sure that your boundaries are on the other side of that space. And if you find that there's, you know, somebody else in your life that's really sucking you in because their drama basically is pulling you in, like that's actually a bit of a red flag, that you need to take more space to make sure that your foundation is stable, because that's very empathetic behavior. And narcissists, they attract empathetic people because they, you know, it feels so yicky that the empathetic people want to help and all this stuff. And, you know, you understand so deeply. So I just wanted to speak to that. And then the other question that was asked was, does it apply to narcissists that they want you to fulfill all their sexual fantasies but ignore yours? And you mentioned, and I know my experience, I mean, sex was a really big part of it, and the the sexual abuse and using that happens during that is both euphoric and extremely toxic. And I'm interested to know, because you said there's the financial, the emotional, and the sexual. So can you answer a little bit of like, does it apply to narcissists that they want you to fulfill all their sexual fantasies but ignore yours?
Yeah, I first want to go back to the can you help them thing as well before I answer that question, because I feel like there's so many people out there who wanna heal partners or help partners, but that's already a red flag for yourself in your own behavior, because you shouldn't ever try and heal someone or help someone unless they ask you to. Because what my therapist told me, and it took me a long time to fully understand it and not have my ego hurt by it, but she actually told me by just taking over the control and wanting to heal someone and taking on someone's baggage, you also think that they're not capable of doing it themselves, and that itself is pretty disrespectful. And when she said that to me, I was like, how can you say I'm disrespectful when I'm trying to help people? And what I had to learn is that it's like me wanting to make a cake for someone and you coming over and taking away all the stuff and making it yourself, and then you give it back to me, and then I'm gonna be like, well, I wanted to do it myself, and now I can't say that I did it myself, and you just took that away from me. And so basically that's like a lesson in wanting to heal someone. If you do that, you also take away their ability to do it themselves, and you can't heal anyone. You can help people if you're asked to help them, if they ask you because they need your guidance, but you can't just go around and just do it without the permission, and you can't just go around and help someone without their permission that they actually want your help. And you should never ever try and heal someone. You can give someone the tools to healing and help them if they ask you to, but you should never walk around and just heal anyone without permission or without them telling you that they actually need your help and guidance. So I think a lot of people actually think that it's a good trait that they're trying to heal or help people, and it definitely shows that that person has a good heart, but at the same time we have to bring ourselves back to what it actually means when you do that, because you take away something from someone that would, if they were able to do it themselves and you weren't taking it away from them, they could be much prouder that they did it, and they actually think that you trust them to be able to do it themselves. You know what I mean? So it's definitely good to help people to a certain amount if you are asked to, but you shouldn't just do it without permission and only to a certain level, I guess.
Yeah, I really appreciate that perspective. I really appreciate that perspective as well. And like, I mean, we all know it's pretty hard to watch a train wreck, but like at the same time, it's like, I really appreciate that perspective. And, for anybody out there that does find themselves wanting to like heal other people, because like we all do it, we all want to fix and we all want to help. And, it feels good for us when somebody else gets helped by us and all that stuff. But there's this humility involved in this whole realm of healing, whether you're healed or the healer or whatever it is. There's an element in the ancient, in ancient shamanism, it was like humility first, like being very, very humble with your role and really just being an observer, holding the space and just being a safe and all of that is. So
yeah, I also think that if I think of it like that, because when I see people hurting, it's hard for me as well to not just go in and try and help them and just do it without permission because I think I know better, you know what I mean? But what I started to shine light on for myself was to actually see that everyone has a soul plan. And if someone is struggling, they have on the soul level consciously chosen that path. And it's up to them, like they have signed up for this. And even if they never heal from it, it's still their soul growth, like in the next reincarnation. And that's like, to believe that, you have to believe in reincarnation. But I think if I see someone struggling and that person I know will never heal from it, I think that, okay, well, this life in that case will be for them to really learn the pain of it, and then in the next life they can move on from it. In the next life they will have the body to actually heal it, and they will have the ability to actually look at it, because now they're just not able to receive the healing. They have to feel the pain fully to be able to go into the next state in the next life where they are able to heal it. So whenever I see that and it upsets me, I remember that it's actually their soul plan, and it would be disrespectful for me to just try and sort of manipulate that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I totally get that too. And if that was too woo for anybody, they can DM you and ask about your past life regression therapy that you do, because once you dive into it, it kind of makes more sense.
Yeah, it does. So that's just the mindset that really helped me in regarding that problem. And talking about sexual abuse, so for me it was just, I was really young when I was in that relationship, so, and I didn't have many boyfriends before that, and I grew up with a grandmother who was really religious, and I grew up with the mindset that it's a taboo topic and sexual pleasure is something to hide away, and it's actually shameful and stuff like that. And I would always like hear that you have to be a good girl and not do nasty stuff or whatever. So for me, there was like a mindset that actually didn't allow me to really enjoy sex or enjoy pleasure. And because of that, I didn't even know what I liked, and I wasn't fully, do you say sexually evolved, in a way that what I in my experience, I wasn't fully like experienced in sexual matters. And then there was also this shame beside it, that basically, and then I took the pill, which really affected my sex drive, and it was just a lot of things coming together. And my ex-boyfriend wanted to have sex literally every day, and I just didn't. And it just got to a point that if we had sex, let's say 4 times a week, he would tell me that this is not enough, and he never had this problem with any other girlfriends, and something is wrong with me, and it's not normal for me to not want sex all the time with him. And I do see that now, that it wasn't normal, my mindset wasn't normal. And I know that now, that if I'm really in love with someone, and if I really am sexually attracted to that person, I know now that, especially in the start, you just constantly want to have sex with them. But back then, I wasn't there. I was young. I didn't know what I liked. I had this shame that came with it. And and then I also had the confirmation of him telling me that something's wrong with me. So I just walked around getting more and more insecure about my sex life and about my sexual experience, and just completely detaching myself from my womb and my self pleasure as well. And I, that even made it worse, you know what I mean? Like, him saying that made me want to have even less sex because I felt so insecure about it. And yeah, and I just always remember him, like, sex was a huge topic. He would just always tell me this is not right, and like you should be wanting to do that, and you should want to try out that, and you should want to do that, and for you not wanting to have sex every day is not normal, and for you not wanting to try this is not normal.
To want to do it every single day, I don't even know if that's normal. So.
I know, like I mean, we're having busy lives. I can't have sex every day, like even if I wanted to. Like, yeah, we're gonna go sleep. Sleep's important to me. So yeah,
reality. Like maybe when you're 18, sure, like, but like, come on.
Yeah. And I mean, nowadays sex is really sacred to me, so I don't want to rush it, and I don't, like, of course sometimes it's fun to just have a quickie or something, but in general I wanna really embrace it as the spiritual experience that it is. And yeah, it was just like I got so insecure about it, and I struggled with that for a long time, and then I actually didn't enjoy sex for like most of my life. And I also discovered that I had this wrong belief pattern that it is shameful, and what came to that as well was that I thought in order to get love you have to give sex as a woman, and then I gave away my body. I literally let someone use my body, and I have not received the love, you know what I mean, afterwards. So there was also a feeling of feeling used when having sex, you know what I mean. So, and what programs that is, it programs trauma within your womb and your yoni, and you actually can get chronic diseases from that, and you're more likely to attract sexual transmitted diseases. And yeah, it's really interesting to see, because I realized like last year that I actually had sexual trauma, and I don't speak about rape or anything, but I speak about trauma that I have caused to myself because I did not respect my body. I didn't see my womb and my yoni as sacred as it actually is, and I literally just gave away my body thinking that I would receive love in return, and then not getting it made me feel used, and then that ends up being trauma. And so yeah, there was just a lot of shame and trauma that came from that relationship as well, because 90% of the time I actually had sex with him without enjoying it or wanting to have sex. And it was just like most of the time I'll just think, I hope it's done soon, and I would always fake it. And yeah, it was just, yeah, it. And you know what's really interesting as well is, if it's not a full body yes for you to have sex, your mind may shift when you get turned on, and your mind may change and think, okay, now I want to have sex because now I'm turned on, but the energy hasn't transformed yet into your womb and your yoni. So what happens is your yoni is still in the energy thinking that she doesn't want it, and then what she does is she's tensioning up, and then everyone who will enter in that mindset is actually forcing themselves in. So you will experience physical trauma without even realizing it mentally, that that's trauma, and that's actually forcefully entering. And so yeah, you can imagine how much yoni trauma and sexual trauma I had after that relationship, because I wasn't ever entered like in a sacred way. I was just always entered in a forceful way, and like feeling like I need to, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's really interesting, because I think in narcissistic relationships you get at least once they will attack your sexual behavior, and they will tell you something's wrong with you, and then they literally have full control over your life and even your sex life. And then it's fucked up.
Yeah. And I experienced something like very different when it came to like sex and sexuality. And I'm curious because I have a question of like, in your research, have you found a link between sex addiction and narcissism? Because like, I don't know if your narcissist had a sex addiction thing going on, but I definitely, I know that my ex had a crazy sex addiction. I used to work in the sex industry, and we had a crazy sexual relationship, and it was intense. I mean, it was great, but it was also like, it was just a lot, you know, and that feeling of being used, it was just like, that's all you were, you know, was this thing to throw around. And I definitely, like in my life, I have a different background from you, whereas I was like quite promiscuous. And so when you talk about sexual trauma being entered without, you know, kind of forcefully, like that was again something I did to myself again. Now I'm in my, you know, early to mid 30s, it's starting to unravel a little bit, and I'm starting to really realize what's there. But I did notice that after this specific relationship, it was the first time in my life where I could barely even be touched by another human, you know. It stopped like all of whatever behavior I had in its tracks. And so with that, you know, sex addiction behavior, it was actually like, it was a lot to be around all the time. And in myself, like I've had my own sex addiction as well, not to that extreme, but I'm curious to know, in your research, if you've found a link between the two.
Yeah, I haven't actually, like in my research, found a link to that, but there is always a link to sexual abuse as well. So I feel like that already itself is a link to it, and it just depends on how it shows. The sexual abuse can show with the problem of sex addiction, or with someone telling you, making you feel insecure about it. But also what I think is, people who are like narcissists, who actually have problems within themselves that they don't want to look at, they're also usually people who are likely to experience addiction, because addiction is just a way of escaping something that you don't want to see. So because there is something that they don't want to see, which is causing them to be a narcissist, they most likely will find something that they are addicted to, that sort of keeps them in the present moment. Because what the addiction does, I think, for most cases, is it takes you to the present right now, and not to the past or the future. You're just like right now experiencing this right now, and you're not confronted with your past or your future, the worries of your past and your future. So like, most people who have that trauma that they're trying to hide away and not look at, they will find themselves in all sorts of addictions. Like some of them are like addicted to sports even, and that's like extreme sports where they are also forced to be in the moment. And then sex addiction is also something like, if you're having sex, you don't think about your past worries or your future worries, you're just having sex, you're just in the moment. And yeah, it's like that with everything that you can get addicted to, I guess. Like it's like, I probably not alcohol and stuff, but most of the things
are like really in your brain to make you feel good, and the desire to feel good comes from a place of wanting to mask trauma, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And so I guess there's definitely a link that narcissists are more likely to experience addiction to whatever it is, because they are trying to numb whatever they have as their trauma, and they're trying to run away from it. And addiction is just like a way to get out of it. And so I guess they're like, from my opinion, I'm sure there is a link, but I haven't really found it in any of my researches, but I would definitely say that there is a link to it.
Yeah, sounds like
thinking about it. Yeah.
Let us know later in all of your research.
Sorry?
I said, let us know later in all of your research.
Yeah, if I ever find anything, I'll let you know.
Yeah. Cool. I think I want to start wrapping us up because like this conversation's amazing and like we could just talk for hours and hours and hours. And it's been, I know for me, it's been super helpful just to hear somebody talk about, this whole experience. Because like for me personally, I don't really talk about it because I don't like to bring past relationships into, like I have a beautiful, amazing current relationship, you know, and so I don't need to bring in the past to it, and nor do I. But it's nice to speak to another woman who's been through something, and like I feel you, I've been there, you know, and I know that you understand what I've been through too, so it feels really good. And for whoever's listening, like reach out for sure. Like if you have something going on or you're experiencing this, I mean, this is the niche that you're getting into, so I just want to guide people to reach out. And I do have a question to you about like, what is your ideal client? You know, so if somebody's listening, I really want them to know, like, if they're in this space, this is a really, even though the space may feel like shit, it might be a really good space to reach out and start getting some support.
Yeah, I guess my ideal client is just anyone who has experienced emotional abuse and toxic relationships, and who's struggling to, who's committed to healing, but also struggling to know where to start. Like they're at a point where their self-worth is so broken, and they're in this mess and they need a recipe to healing. And that's what I'm trying to give with the program that I'm actually creating right now. Is I know what worked for me, and I've been healing for, it took me 4 years, and I want to give someone the shortcut to that and the foundation of their own healing by actually creating a step-by-step plan and giving them personal coaching as well. And I guess my sole client would just be anyone that has experienced everything that we were just talking about, and everything that they heard us speaking about and felt like it resonates with them. So anyone who has experienced emotional abuse and is feeling the consequences of it, which is usually having no boundaries and feeling no self-worth and just being completely lost in their life and being anxious and paranoid. And I've been there, and even though I'm still learning a lot, because you are never finished learning, I am a couple of steps ahead because I've already been there. And that's why I think I could really help people with that, because I can give them a step-by-step plan on how to restructure their life after emotional abuse and how to get out of it and heal from it.
Yeah, cool. And what can they expect from you as a person? Like, you know, it's nice to have a list of things to do. And you're obviously like a very honest and heart-centered person, but, you know, what is it that you think kind of, what can people get the guarantee of with you? You know what I mean? Because like, obviously healing is like its own timeline and stuff, but what's, you know, one thing you kind of need that they can really count on you for?
Definitely that I am just as committed to their healing as they are, and I will always be able to feel into their feelings because I've experienced it myself, and I will always be authentic, and it will never be about me. I will make them my priority in helping them healing. I cannot guarantee anyone to instantly heal because that's not possible. You get your tools and you get your support, and you have to be committed and do something with it. And I can just really guarantee someone that I will always be as committed to get them healed as they are. I think that's like my main guarantee, that I will never feel like I wouldn't want to help them anymore. I would never be like, okay, I'm kind of over this now. You know what I mean? I'll always be like, always committed from day one to however long it takes.
Yeah.
But you have to put the work in.
Okay. I feel like there was something else I wanted to ask you, but I can't remember. Oh yeah, so in healing, like healing's kind of a big umbrella, but what are some of the practices that you, and I know you're still designing your program based on like your kit that you've collected over the years, but what are some things that you're going to dabble with in this program and use as a tool for people to heal?
So a big part of it is awareness, to actually be aware of what abuse looks like and know everything about the symptoms of the victim and the abuser. And we will go into childhood traumas to see if there's any pattern that started back in your childhood, any sort of caregiver or whoever in your family who was maybe reflecting that behavior already to get you to that pattern. And most of it is, after a narcissistic relationship, most of the healing is acknowledging it, gaining boundaries and gaining self-worth. And so there will be a lot of work of being able to acknowledge it, being able to find the root cause of it, which might be in the childhood. And then there will be a lot of work that is, and most of my healing techniques are based on spiritual alternative techniques. So I use a lot of mirror work, I use a lot of shadow work, a lot of journaling and meditation, guided meditations. And then obviously they will have weekly coaching calls with me where we go over everything that they have experienced in each module. And it will also be a past life regression in there as well in the program. So yeah, it's a lot of work that has to, someone who is keen to look into that program definitely has to be willing to do that sort of work and do meditation. Like if someone isn't into meditation and isn't into doing stuff that might make them feel funny in the start, it's definitely not for them, because you literally have to scream and punch into a pillow and to release emotions. And if you're not cool with that, then it's definitely not the right thing. I mean, I wasn't cool at first when I did it. I was like, this is fucking weird. If anyone sees me right now, they think I'm mad or something. But you have to be at least willing to do that sort of work and work with techniques that are based on alternative stuff and not just the out of the books therapy stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. No, I love that. And I love that you're doing it in a way with that. Really, I think the thing I love about all of this is what you're doing is like the authenticity as the foundation, that like this is literally like something that you know front and back because you've been through it, you've experienced it. And not only that, like you didn't just read about all these healing techniques in a book and then, you know, teach them to somebody. They're like tried, tested, and true within you. And so everybody's going to have their own flavor of what really works for them, but you have enough available that they can dabble with all of it and see what resonates, and just have somebody there that truly understands to like help hold a flashlight along the way. So that's super important.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I really, really enjoyed kind of gabbering on forever with you. I'm excited for the day that you move to Bali and we can hang out.
Yes, me too. I'll see you in November. I just talked to one of the girls on the group in the course yesterday, and we had like such a good chat for 4 hours. And I already said we were doing a manifestation technique, and I said to her, like, okay, it's May 2021 and I'm calling you now to tell you to meet me in Bali in November. So I'll see you definitely in November.
Yeah, no, I love
It's
that.
going to happen.
There's always a way. I mean, living in a nomadic place, there's been people that have been, you know, they've been getting places and stuff, and I think there's a way to be responsible and have your cake and eat it too. And my phone battery. So, yeah, it would just be super nice to hang out in person, and I'm excited to connect with you on the back end. So I'm going to post this now to Instagram, and then I'm going to end up posting it to YouTube as well, just to share on like other social media profiles and stuff like that. And you can add it to your link tree as well and things like that, just have the conversation. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you to anybody who's like stayed until the end, because this was a really long one. But
Yeah.
And it definitely wasn't a light walk in the park kind of conversation, but I like that we were able to dive into some real personal stories, and I hope that somebody feels a little bit safer knowing that they're not alone, and just saying that if you are watching and there's anything that arose for you in any way and you need somebody to like puke it out to, we're here. And and just you know, anybody who's watching after the fact would love some comments below about what really resonated, and any other questions as well, anything that we didn't cover that people want to hear more about. So
yeah, totally. Also, thank you for getting on this call with me and taking the time and being so keen to do that. I really enjoyed it, and I really can't wait to come to Bali and have all these conversations in person with you.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Well, have a wonderful day, and thanks for putting your makeup on for me.
Thank you for having me.
See you.
Awesome. Have a good evening in Bali.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.